So I must confess that Thanksgiving has always been one of my favorite holidays. It has some of my favorite things. There's food and football and family and afternoon naps. There is turkey and dressing and pumpkin pie with Cool Whip. And did I not mention afternoon naps? So it's easy enough to be grateful for such things, though I posit we live in a world that it's not easy, in a world that does not encourage much gratitude. Now, maybe it's the continual messages we have of never having enough or never being enough. Maybe it's the hard to be thankful in a world in which we read news of another bomb going off in Ukraine, of war there, another shooting just last night here in the United States. Maybe it's hard to feel gratitude in the midst of that. Maybe it's just our human nature. Be thankful. Maybe it's just hard for us to be thankful in a world in which we are filled with our own anxieties, our own apprehensions, our own worries. We human beings, I posit, tend to be half the glass, half empty folks. And at the heart of the story this morning, we read of Jesus healing 10 lepers, people with a skin affliction. Now, in the scriptures, they're often referred to as lepers, though it's a broader term than that. And he raises that very question about why are we not grateful? He asks the question, where are the other 9? Now, as we read that story, we saw that the 10 lepers approached Jesus, and very importantly, with this skin affliction, this leprosy, which makes them unclean, they keep their distance. In fact, my understanding at the time, in many ways, because people were afraid of being touched by such unclean people, that lepers had to wear a bell around their neck to warn people they were coming. It's a visible disease, unclean to the eyes of their community, an existence that they had of isolation, an existence of rejection. And Jesus sends them, go to the priests, that you may be declared clean, which the priests, that was their job, to say who was clean and unclean. Now, one of the interesting details about how Jesus heals people in the scriptures is that it's never consistent. Sometimes he touches them, sometimes he puts mud in their eyes, sometimes they touch his cloak, sometimes he just says, you will be clean. And as they are on their way to the priest to be declared clean, they realize they are healed, but only one returns proclaiming thanks to God in a loud voice. And Jesus asks the obvious question in the text, where are the other 9? Now, there's an author, Martin Bell, who I love. He's an Episcopalian priest. Part of the reason I love him, in part, is he writes these great short stories, these songs. Part of the reason I love him is he was a private investigator in his previous life, a DJ, a bartender. I could really relate to that. I thought that was really cool. And one of the favorite pieces that he wrote is a very short piece that reflects on this very story we read this morning, and it's titled, Where Are the 9? Now, in his approach to answering that question is not judgmental, but more about understanding what it is about our human nature, what it is that keeps us from gratitude. And so he posits, he imagines that there's a number of reasons that keep the 9 from giving thanks. One, he says, was just frightened, just scared. Didn't know what would happen to him, he was just afraid. Afraid of what might happen next. The truth was, he was scared by Jesus. The second was offended. He thought he should have earned his healing, right? do something great, you pray correctly, you fast for a few years more, then you get healed. This idea of grace was very foreign to him, and Jesus offended his values of work and choice. And then the third one realized that she never really wanted to be healed. She didn't know how to live a life without leprosy. Her leprosy defined and identified her. How was she supposed to live now? And the fourth leper, Martin Bell posits, simply forgot. He was so happy, so excited, so overjoyed. All he could think about was his new life he had, and so he just simply forgot to say thank you. Now, for the fifth leper, the leper's life had hardened him to the point that he had always been saying thank you for every morsel of food he received, every crumb thrown his way. He was tired of begging. He was tired of saying thank you, tired of feeling less than. So he didn't say thank you to anyone anymore, not even Jesus. The sixth leper was a wife and mother. She had not seen her family for so many years. As soon as she was healed, she headed straight home to kiss her husband, hug her kids. She had to get home as soon as possible to get on with her life, and she thought Jesus would understand. And the seventh leper was convinced. Truth was, there was no miracle here. There's got to be some explanation, some scientific explanation. He knew beyond a shadow of a doubt that there was no miracle here at all. It was just luck, just a random thing. So why would he give thanks? For him, Jesus had nothing to do. He was not ready to change his philosophy or religion or beliefs, or lack of it. And the eighth leper was the opposite of the seventh. He knew beyond a shadow of a doubt that Jesus had healed him, and he had no time to waste going back to say thank you. He'd bump into Jesus sometime later down the road. Now he had to go out and tell everyone what had happened to him. There was no time like the present to spread the good news. And the ninth leper, they were struck silent by the awesome mystery of it all, and they couldn't even say any words. So whether it is fear or human pride or forgetfulness or busyness or a hardened soul or lack of belief or just a freeing sense of joy and contentment that gratitude was unnecessary, there is many reasons for us not to give thanks as well. We all have our reasons for not living in gratitude, for giving thanks, acknowledging our gratitude to God in Jesus Christ for the mystery that is Jesus' presence in our lives. Maybe the more pertinent question isn't where is the nine, but why was there one who came back and said thank you? What was it about this Samaritan, this foreigner, that made him return to give thanks to God? Maybe the mystery is not why do we not return to give thanks, but why this one person turned around, walked back, prostrated himself in front of Jesus, and said thank you. Now, I would posit to you this morning that our theology is rooted most profoundly in gratitude. That we don't believe faith is some belief in a statements about God or about Jesus. Faith is not saying the right things or doing the right things for us. Faith for us is the gift of God's grace that embraces us in all the mystery of our lives and saves us. It is not earned, it is not an act of will, but a gift, full and clear. That's the essence of the good news we preach. And we act and we believe what we do, not out of any sense of moral righteousness, that we are morally better than anyone else, not out of any sense of guilt. We don't act or care for the world out of a sense of guilt or obligation, but we act and live our lives out of gratitude. Now, I don't know if you noticed, there is at the end of this story a very odd detail where Jesus, as the Samaritan is there, prostrating himself in front of them, he says, "Get up, go on your way, your faith has made you well." Which I find to be a really odd detail. Hadn't he already been healed of his leprosy? So what can it mean that Jesus says to him, your faith, your gratitude has made you well? The word here in Greek is a word used for salvation. Your faith has saved you, or your faith has made you whole and complete. It has a connotation of healing and wholeness, being saved from lives of desperation and struggle. Gratitude, I would argue, makes us whole and healthy. So I would posit to you this morning that what defines us as a church, as the community who have experienced the grace and healing love of Jesus Christ, is that we're just grateful. It isn't that we're more morally righteous or that we know all the answers. It isn't that we believe the right things. Really, the definition of church, you're the people who come back, maybe on Sunday morning, maybe each and every day, to say thank you. And to live your lives of compassion and care, not again out of some sense of moral righteousness or some sense of have to, out of some sense that we're guilt, or even, God forbid, that we got to earn our way to some imagined heaven and avoid hell. It is simply that we're the people who return and say thank you.